Injuries are really common among the student athlete. This is John reporting live from High Point Regional High School. How often do people get injured playing ice hockey?
More often you'd think. Minor injuries, leg injuries, muscle injuries tend to happen more frequently. We've had a couple cuts this year already, but more serious things like concussions and stuff, not as frequent as you'd imagine.
Well, basketball is a physical sport, so it's not uncommon for people to be injured. Kobe Bryant is coming off an Achilles tear. Derrick Rose has recently struggled with knee injuries. So, it's a physical game. Guys are cutting. It's fast-paced, so injuries do happen.
The physical nature of wrestling, tends to allow for people to be injured. Obviously the nice thing about wrestling is there's not a whole lot of jumping or running where, you have bigger or, faster guys falling into you or falling on top of you. But, the fact that it is a combative sport, there are some injuries associated with it.
What's the most common injury?
I would say most common is probably going to be bruises, just from contact. It is a contact sport. But we've had, like I said, a couple cuts this year, which is surprising. But I would definitely say bruises.
I would say in basketball, the most common injury is probably ankle sprains are probably the most common.
I don't know with wrestling if there necessarily is a most common injury. You still run the risk of hurting your wrists, hurting your knees, hurting your stitches are relatively common just because of impact. But wrestling is relatively controlled because when you compete, you're wrestling against people that are the exact same size as you. But I think probably more injuries occur in practice, and there's a whole range of injuries associated with wrestling.
What are the standards to prevent injuries?
Hockey players wear a variety of equipment. We've got helmets that protect their heads, obviously, with various mouthpieces and clips to prevent the helmet from breaking loose, and a whole assortment of pads and things that they wear to kind of protect their entire body.
They're probably the same as any sport. Teach people proper technique, show people how to stretch, make sure you're properly loosened up all your muscles before you start practice. But things are going to happen. You can't prevent everything.
I think just trying to prepare your body as well as you can. There's a lot of emphasis on lifting now and weight management and proper nutrition and hydration, which allows you to be as healthy as possible going in, which reduces the risk of serious injury. Obviously, there's risk associated with wrestling, but really the only thing you can do as a coach and as a wrestler is try to limit the injuries as much as possible.
Have you ever been seriously injured in sports?
Actually, yes. I've gotten 17 stitches right up in my eyebrow from playing ice hockey, so that was probably the worst one.
Yes, I was. Just last year in the basketball league, I ended up fracturing my elbow. It was a long recovery back, but eventually, if it takes time and you put the work in, you can heal and recover, and, my shot's as good as ever. I'll challenge anybody to a shooting contest.
Yeah, I think really the only serious injury that I had was I fractured and tore some ligaments and tendons in my elbow when I was wrestling at Oklahoma State in college. I competed for Clemson University in South Carolina and had a dual meet in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and hurt my elbow a little bit, but I came back and had surgery and ended up being fine.
So there you have it. There's been a lot of injuries here at High Point Sports. This has been John from the Wildcat News. Stay classy, High Point.